All right, welcome back. Today, we're diving into a cinematic journey through the first half of John chapter 16. Our goal here is to make every single verse come alive in a way that's truly unforgettable. So let's get right into it. Okay, I want you to just imagine this for a moment. The person you look up to most, your greatest teacher, the one you've built your whole world around, looks you right in the eye and says, I have to leave, and it's actually for your own good. That's the mind-bending paradox Jesus is about to drop on his followers, and it really sets the stage for everything else. But before Jesus gets to that big twist, he starts with a dose of what you might call brutal honesty. He needs to prepare them for the harsh reality they're about to face without him physically there, and it sets this really serious, really tense tone for the whole conversation. He kicks it off with verse 1, and you can think of this as the mission statement for this entire talk. He's saying, look, I'm not telling you these difficult things to freak you out. I'm telling you so that when the pressure really hits, your faith doesn't completely fall apart. He's laying a foundation. Think of it like this. Jesus sees this dangerous, rushing river of trouble just up ahead for them. So right now, in this moment, he is carefully and deliberately placing solid stepping stones across it. That way, when his followers get there, they'll have a clear, stable path to walk on, instead of just being swept away by the current. And in verse 2, he reveals just how dangerous that river really is. He hits them with this two-punch warning. First, you're going to face social rejection. They're going to kick you out of your places of worship. But then he says something even more shocking. You're going to face deadly persecution from people who genuinely believe that by killing you, they're actually doing God a favor. And to really feel that first punch, just picture this. Imagine being physically shoved out of a warm, golden, familiar doorway, your community, and landing hard in a cold, blue, empty street, completely isolated. That's the feeling of being cast out by your own people. So you have to ask, right? What could possibly motivate that kind of hatred? Well, verse 3 gives us the reason, and it is absolutely crucial. He says they'll do these things because, at their core, they're spiritually blind. They don't truly know God the Father, and they haven't recognized Jesus for who he really is. This visual just nails the point. I mean, look at this. Someone wearing a blindfold, thrashing around in anger. They're causing incredible pain, but they're acting out of complete ignorance. They literally can't see who they're hurting. This is how Jesus describes the people who will persecute them. Jesus then circles back in verse 4, and he repeats himself because this is so important. He's saying, I'm telling you all of this now so that when it happens, a light will go on in your head. You'll remember I told you this was coming. It's not meant to be a prophecy of doom, it's a tool for endurance. His words are like a map of a very dangerous territory. You study that map carefully before you start the journey. So when you run into that treacherous mountain pass or that raging river, you aren't surprised. You're not defeated. You recognize it, and you know there's a way through because the one who made the map already showed you it was there. Okay, so all of this heavy talk of persecution and leaving, it starts to take a serious emotional toll. The focus of the story now shifts from the threat out there to the emotional collapse happening in here, inside the disciples. In verses 5 and 6, Jesus just points out the obvious. His news about leaving has so completely overwhelmed them with grief that they're just paralyzed. They can't even process it enough to ask the most logical question, which is, wait a minute, where are you going? The sorrow is like a thick fog they can't see through. And that phrase, sorrow has filled your heart, is just so powerful. Imagine you could actually see a human heart, and then watch as this thick, dark, heavy liquid just pours into it, filling it completely until it's just weighed down, unable to function properly. That's the emotional state of the disciples in this moment. But right here, just as that sorrow seems to hit rock bottom, Jesus does something incredible. He completely flips the script. He takes their absolute greatest fear, his departure, and he's about to reframe it as their greatest advantage. This is the real turning point. And in verse 7, we get one of the most stunning plot twists in Scripture. Jesus looks at them and says, it is actually better for you that I leave. And you can imagine them thinking, how? Well, because his physical departure is the necessary requirement for someone else to arrive, the helper. To wrap your head around that, picture a hand holding a rope that's tied to this powerful, majestic eagle. Now, the hand loves the eagle, but as long as it's holding on, the eagle is grounded. The moment the hand lets go of that rope, that's when the eagle is released to soar to heights it never could before. Letting go of Jesus' physical presence is what allows this new, greater spiritual power to be unleashed.
So, what's this helper going to do? Verse 8 lays out his three-part job description. He will come and prove the world wrong about three massive, fundamental things: sin, righteousness, and judgment. Let's quickly break that down.
So, how does this work? First, sin. The helper's going to act like a mirror, showing the world its core sin, which is refusing to believe in Jesus. Second, righteousness. With Jesus going to the Father, the helper acts like a compass, always pointing humanity back to God's perfect standard, the one Jesus lived out. And third, judgment. This one's powerful. The helper is like a judge's gavel, slamming down to declare a final verdict. The ruler of this world has already been judged and defeated.
Now, in verse 12, Jesus shows this incredible empathy. He kind of hits the pause button and says, listen, I have so much more I want to teach you, but I can see you're at your breaking point. You just can't handle it right now. He knows their emotional and spiritual limits. You know, think of a wise, loving parent who's holding this giant, heavy book full of life's answers. They look at their small child and they know that if they give them that book right now, it would just crush them. So out of compassion, they hold it back until the child is strong enough to carry it. This isn't about being secretive, it's about perfect, loving timing. And verse 13 is the solution to that problem. Jesus promises, don't worry, when he comes, the Spirit of truth, he will be your guide. He's going to lead you into all that truth when you're actually ready for it, and he'll even show you what you need to know about the future. And this is the perfect picture of how that guidance works. The Spirit isn't like some giant stadium floodlight that reveals the entire forest all at once. No, he's more like a guide walking beside you through the dark, holding a bright lantern that illuminates just enough of the path for you to take your next step safely. And finally, in verses 14 and 15, Jesus makes the helper's ultimate mission crystal clear. He says the Spirit's main job isn't to draw attention to himself, but to glorify me, Jesus. He will take everything that belongs to Jesus, which, as he says, is everything that belongs to the Father, and make it real and clear to you. The helper is the ultimate spotlight on the full glory of Jesus. So they've been warned about hardship, but they've been promised this incredibly powerful helper. It feels like things are starting to make a little more sense. But just when they think they might have a handle on it, Jesus is about to throw them a strange riddle about seeing him, then not seeing him, then seeing him again, that will send them right back into confusion. What could he possibly mean? Well, we'll have to unravel that mystery in part 2.